Hello everyone, I'm UniFC and this is Blue Lions TV, and today I'm bringing you guys the match preview for our upcoming game against Stoke tomorrow at 3 PM. Now anyway, getting straight into the match preview, starting with Stoke City and the analysis of the team. Now, with Stoke, their form this season hasn't been very consistent. They haven't really been pushing on to the next level. Now, they do try to sign players that can hopefully take them to another level. Shaqiri, Arnautovic before he left. Obviously signing Jesse Rodriguez to bring him in on loan from Paris Saint-Germain. And then Mbula was another big name signing, but a lot of these guys really haven't been performing as much with them recently. And it's come to a detriment to the team. I think with Stoke City this year as well, tactically they've been very poor. And with Mark Hughes, one criticism of him has always been his tactical ineptitudes, really. He isn't very consistent. He doesn't really know how to get systems running perfectly. And you know, a testament to that is Stoke City's use of a wing-back system for this season. You know, so often in this country, I think Harry Redknapp was the guy to really try to introduce a wing-back system at QPR. You don't really understand the nuances behind it and how it really works. You know, playing as a wing-back, it's not just being a fullback that can attack a bit more. It's way more than that, because you have to be very good technically, tactically as well, and also you have to be able to provide a forward threat as well. It's kind of like playing as a defensive winger, in my opinion, and that's why so many wingers are the types of players that do make sense playing as wingbacks. And especially with Stoke City having Peters, for example, playing as a left wing back really hasn't added anything to the attack. A lot of fullbacks, you have to remember, do like that defensive support from a winger in front of them, and that's one thing that Stoke have definitely lacked a lot at times this season. You know, Hughes is constantly changing their tactical setup as well, but realistically, when we do face them tomorrow, they're either likely to use a 3-4-2-1 or using a 4-2-3-1 system. Now, there is an advantage against Stoke tomorrow, and that's the fact that so many first team players are actually out injured. They don't really have a defence at this moment in time. Zuma's injured, even though Zuma wouldn't be able to play against us tomorrow. Some ridiculous rule that they have in the Premier League, but in no other country in the world. Shawcross won't be playing, and they're going to be having a makeshift defence of probably Cameron, the American fullback, and Wimmer, the guy they signed from Tottenham, who hasn't even been making it that much into the first team at all. And there's another wasted signing because he cost them £18 million. Now, of course, this is going to make their fullback areas pretty weak. They're using a guy called Edwards as a right back so far. And they got Peters, and now with Peters, it is a touch and go situation. He might be fit enough for the game tomorrow. He might not be. But the beautiful thing is, if he was to still play tomorrow, it doesn't mean he's 100% fully match conditions. So there's definitely an advantage to have in those wide areas. Also with Stoke City as well, really their only threat comes from Shaqiri. Now, they have been using that 4-2-3-1 quite recently. Shaqiri has been probably one of the most consistent players. I think Kurt Zouma has been their best player so far this season. And just looking at some of his defensive stats and his player ratings, he's by far the highest rated player out of any Stoke player in the team. And they're definitely going to miss him in the back three. But with Shaqiri and Moting, that's the only main threats to expect from Stoke City tomorrow. And I think with Stoke City, I don't know, I see them using maybe a 4 at the back system. They don't really have enough personnel to play 3 at the back. We've got another advantage on top of that, because Mark Hughes has actually stated that he could be experimenting with some youth players for tomorrow, because Stoke do have a big game against Newcastle on Monday. And you know, with some of these managers in this country, they like to sacrifice games to give their teams better chances for other games. But I've never ever seen and that's ever worked, because if we're going to go into a big game having lost a previous game already, or having that mindset where it's okay to not get a result, then how's that doing your chances, you know, for your main important game? It never works at all. And with Stoke City as well, I think this is going to be a massive factor in terms of actually getting the result against them. Now, really, the only main strengths they do have, as I was stating, was Shaqiri. He could conjure up something, a long-range banger, something from a set piece. And that touches my second point, set piece threat. They are Stoke, they always have that core identity of being physically strong aerially, and I'm expecting them to have that. Peter Crouch will probably play, and for some reason at Chelsea, I've noticed that we do tend to struggle against very tall, imposing strikers at times. I think Dzeko was another example. He was really running us ragged. Peter Crouch has always been decent against us. We've never really had anyone that could really cope with his height and his obviously aerial ability as well. And he actually got a goal against us last time, so that's definitely something we have to make sure we're aware of. I think once we stop those threats, that's it. Now, how would I beat Stoke City? You know, me personally, I feel like a 3-4-3 would be the system to go to for this game. I feel that it's going to be about obviously the off the ball movement from the front three. It's going to be how the front three play close to each other. I think that we will create a lot of 3v2s against Stoke City tomorrow. I think the key to creating those overloads in the final third is going to come from our wing backs, and this is where the front three can really help, because Stoke really, they don't have their full strength team at this moment in time. A lot of injuries at the moment. They do struggle, especially to defend in wide areas as well. They've got that midfield pivot of Fletcher and Joe Allen, which isn't the most demanding or the most, you know, the most athletic midfield combination in the Premier League. And me personally, I've always felt midfield is the one area where Stoke have never really been able to actually improve or upgrade in. You know, too often the likes of your Glenn Whelans have been playing there, and I think, you know, Glenn Whelan still a Premier League player after this long, you're doing yourself a disservice. But I think that's where we're definitely going to get the advantage, because it's not as if Allen and Fletcher will have the legs to really, you know, protect the wing backs or the full backs in those wide areas. And I think there's a potential to create a lot of overloads. Now with Stoke City, they have one of the worst defensive records in the league. I think they've conceded the most goals in the Premier League so far, even though they aren't in the relegation zone, but they're just above it. And one area where they really struggle to defend in is in the half spaces. You know, they don't have the legs, they don't have that tactical nous, and I think that comes from the manager, because there is no off the ball system when it comes to defending off the ball and pressing as a unit. You know, they like to think that they can just defend in numbers at the back and then hopefully get it to their danger guys up front, and your Shakiris, your Motings, your Jesse Rodriguez's, etc., to really, you know, help create something for them in games. But it's not consistent, and in a way their front three constantly have to improvise when it comes to things, and that's not helping them at all. Really creating those overloads with the wing backs is going to be key. I think the movement too, especially with Morata, where he isn't someone that will necessarily just stand still stationary with a defence. He likes to sit in between two defenders, he likes to drop deep as well. Hazard's going to be key as well. They're the type of players that Stoke City don't enjoy, the guys that can collect the ball in the holes. And I think with the front three, we're going to see constant movement, we're going to see constant support of the front three, because they do like to receive the balls in those areas between obviously the midfield and the opposition defence. And I think that's where it's going to be key to really stretching Stoke City, especially because they've got a makeshift back four, especially because some players that might come back won't be fully fit as well. And I honestly can't see us losing this game. Now, Stoke City's record has been pretty bad against the top teams. Early on during the season, they got the result against United and the results against Arsenal as well. But since then, they've been getting absolutely thrashed by every big team. Spurs thrashed them, Man City destroyed them 7-2. Liverpool thrashed them as well, and we thrashed them 4-0 earlier on during the season. And I kind of see the game being even easier than that tomorrow, because they've got so many players who won't be playing in this game. And I just hope that we do take this method of using a 3-4-2, I think, and I mean a 3-4-3, because I really feel that this is the key system really for tomorrow. It will give more players that opportunity to get game time. It's going to give, hopefully, I see Morata scoring again in this game tomorrow as well. Hopefully Hazard can get on the score sheet as well. I think that Stoke won't necessarily put their 100% effort in, because it's clear that they're focusing on the game against Newcastle on Monday. So I really can't see us losing this game. I know there have been a few occasions where I couldn't believe that we'd not get a result, and it's happened. Maybe I should be keeping my mouth shut so far, but I think tactically, with what Mark Hughes is saying in press conferences as well, I really think that we have the advantage in this game. I think one player that we should definitely start with in this game is Cesc Fabregas. I know a lot of people seem to think that he can't play in the midfield too. I keep going on all the time about why that is wrong. And really, the real issue why people actually think that's the case is because you use a wing-back system, they basically are your midfield players. If they get forced back, you expose the midfield, so they only get two in midfield. And this is where teams can overrun them and overload them. Obviously, if you have a midfield three, or you've got four midfield, there's only so much two guys in midfield can do off the ball. Now, with Fabregas, that's a showing that he is doing his defensive due diligence. Before Kante, when Kante was out, he was making 4 tackles per game. I keep making this point about Fabregas. It's not that he doesn't get in position, because he's always there. Tactically, he's very good. He knows what positions to get into. It's just that he doesn't win all his 50-50s, which is natural. That's completely natural. I think against Stoke City, Kante and Fabregas should be enough, because, come on, we're playing against Allen, and we're playing against, not Whelan, we're playing against Joe Allen, and, who's the other guy for Stoke City? Darren Fletcher. So if people are really panicking about thinking that Fabregas could be the potential weakness against these two, then really you don't have high enough ambitions for this club, and really you don't rate the players as highly as you should be doing. I think that with Fabregas, really, I really do feel that he is the key to this team in a way, because those vertical passes are essential. Because, for example, he stops the front three having to necessarily drop too deep than they need to. They finally know that with Fabregas in the team, I can make off-the-ball runs, because Fabregas is going to find me. Who else in the team is going to make those passes? Bakayoko doesn't. Kante doesn't. Drinkwater can, hasn't been playing as much though, but not to the level of Fabregas' quality and consistency, and it makes a massive difference. And I think that just play him tomorrow. I don't want to see a pivot of Bakayoko and Kante in this game. I feel that if we get the goals early, if we can get the first goal in the first half, or even 2 in the first half, the game's effectively over. You know, I like to see us, you know, in games against your Stokes, your bottom half table teams, we should be more aggressive, I feel. We should attack them more, really get in their faces more often, press them higher, because really, to win the league, it's going to come down to who beats most of these smaller teams. This is what Man City are doing fantastically well at this moment in time. Even if Man City lost all their games to the big teams, they'd still be top in the league so far. So that really says everything that you need to know. And I do feel that sometimes Conte can be a bit too unnecessarily cautious. You know, what is this thing on having to win games in the second half? Why can't we win a game in the first half? Then make those substitutions later on to seal out the win, give players rest, etc, etc. So I'm hoping to see that pivot of Fabregas and Kante in the team, because, you know, he really just makes sense of the offensive play for this team. Anyway, you guys, I'm expecting the scoreline tomorrow to be 3-0. I'm expecting we're going to get at least 3 goals in this game tomorrow. I want us to get a very convincing win, because we have been winning games recently. I want us to have a good performance, especially because we do have Arsenal coming up right after the Stoke game, 3 days after. It's so crazy how congested this fixture list has been in the league so far. Nearly a game every 3 days. It's absolutely crazy. But again, the key to the January, you know, the key to the Christmas period and the start of January is, I think, consistency and confidence. That's what teams really need, because again, every player in the league is extremely tired, not really having enough time to get their bodies rested. They're constantly travelling away here and there. They're living out of hotels most times, you know. So I think that really it's key for us to get an impressive performance against Stoke City, because that's going to boost our chances for the game against Arsenal, especially when Arsenal have been struggling at times as well. But anyway, you guys, that's going to bring an end to today's match preview. Please like, comment and subscribe, and if you haven't pressed the bell notification button, what are you waiting for? Press it and stay tuned to all things Blue Lions TV. Anyway, you guys, I'm the FC. This is Blue Lions TV. Signing out.